On this week's episode of Local Matters, Julie interviews genealogist Michael Brophy. We go on the local scene to revisit 3 Broke Girls Salon in North Plymouth. Mark updates us on government stories you may have missed, and we bring you events and resources in our South Shore towns. I'm Elizabeth Shanahan-Jewett. Let's get started. Bird watching connects us with nature and other living creatures, gets us outside, and is easy to start doing. Birds are all around us. The Kingston Recreation Department, together with Mike Perrin, Kingston's Assistant Conservation Agent, invites you to participate in the joy of watching and learning about our local feathered friends. On April 19th, from 8:30 to 10 a.m., join Mike at Sampson Park for a workshop on birds who are early migrants. Dress for comfort and the outdoors, bring water, snacks, and, if possible, a pair of binoculars. All participants will receive the Birds of Massachusetts Field Guide by Stan Tekiela. Pre-registration is required. Visit the Kingston Recreation Department website. Connecting to our family history and ancestry helps us to understand who we are today, and the study of genealogy has exploded with the availability of online resources and the downtime at home many have had during the pandemic. Julie Thompson spoke with professional genealogical researcher Mike Brophy about this burgeoning field.
I'm pleased to welcome to the set today Michael Brophy, who is a genealogist among other things. Michael, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today on Local Matters.
Thank you, Julie, for having me.
Now let's talk a little bit about how did you get into genealogy, and it's so much more than some people might think. What are the different aspects of it, and how did you get into it?
Well, first part of that question, how I got into it, was about 20 years ago. My retired father and I got together after a family wedding and started exploring the father's side of the family. It's kind of unusual because usually mothers and daughters get involved with it, but in my case, it was a father-son project for my recently retired dad after a cousin on my mother's side did a great history of our family history on my mother's side. And when I asked my dad, I said, what do we know about the Brophy side? He said, not much. And that sort of set us on our way towards the genealogy addiction or bug or whatever you want to call it. And several years later, I started taking all kinds of courses and continuing education to sharpen my skills and use my business experience to put together a business relating to genealogy. Second part of your question, Julie, about what genealogy is all about, I tend to divide it into 2 different areas. Number one is where we sort of do the traditional genealogy, tracing back our ancestors. If you're in Plymouth, of course, we all know about the Mayflower Society. And there's also another part of genealogy called forensic genealogy, which has to do with tracking down living people for legal purposes, such as heirs to estates, tracking down heirs for real estate, for putting together title issues, messed up title issues regarding land. Down south, there's a lot of forensic genealogists who get involved with finding heirs for drilling for oil and gas rights and things like that. So there are dual citizenship applications. That's a legal application as well that genealogists get involved with in helping folks to find their dual citizenship. So that's sort of the legal living person part, forensic part of genealogy that is a growing field now.
Sure. Now, when you talked about oil and things like that, there's an awful lot of land, obviously, that's owned by someone, and sometimes you don't know who owns land. And if there's something found on that land, minerals, gold, silver, oil, gas, is it the responsibility of whoever's going to come mine that or work on that land to find out the actual legal people that own the rights to that land?
Yeah, who have an interest in it, and not my area of specialty of forensic genealogy. Of course, you can imagine that this is big business down in the Dakotas, where they're fracking for natural gas, or Oklahoma or Texas, where you're drilling for oil. Not so much in our part of the country, but my understanding is from colleagues who do that kind of work is that it's involved with tracking down the heirs so that the heirs can be notified by a lawyer who specializes in this, that their land is being drilled on, and they make a business deal based on who has the ownership rights of that particular land for oil rights or for mining for minerals, natural resources.
Right. So you can find out, you can trace back to the person or people that might be involved. Do you also have to have some sort of a legal background to understand the ramifications of finding or not finding people?
Yeah, I mean, as an example, in a probate estate, if somebody dies without a will, that's called dying intestate, meaning that the person did not testify as to their wills, as to their wishes of the disposition of their real property, their personal property. So the laws differ as to who would inherit in a case like that when there is no will. Usually, in Massachusetts, certainly the spouse inherits first. They take 100%. Then the children take. Then the parents will take, and brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews, so on down the line. That in Massachusetts is pretty straightforward, but in other parts of the country, there's all kinds of divisions relating to the degree of relative that is left alive.
Right.
In all kinds of different states, and
Okay.
that's the legal part that a forensic genealogist needs to know if they're going to practice forensic genealogy in that state.
Sure. Now, it also says on your website that you do private investigations. Now, what would that be for example?
Yeah, I mean, typically I think folks identify private investigators with somebody who's tailing the cheating spouse, so to speak. That's the old
and that's not true.
Stereotype for it. But private investigation involves so much more than that. And in the case of forensic genealogy, a lot of folks will sort of associate a private investigator or licensed private investigator like myself to interview people who are heirs to estates, folks who have some sort of a background in law enforcement, which I've worked for a private investigator before, which is why I'm licensed in Massachusetts. As well as private investigators do have access to information through proprietary databases that only licensed PIs have access to, the general public does not.
Sure.
For tracking down living people for legal purposes, like estates and real estate, things like that, tracking heirs.
I have a question about probably in the last 20 years or so, with the advent of DNA being so much more readily available and talked about in databases everywhere. How has that changed the whole subject matter of genealogy? And it obviously dovetails with medical conditions and things like that. How does that play into what you do?
Yeah, DNA has really transformed things, particularly in the last 10 years or so. There's one famous genealogist who specializes in the crime aspects of matching up DNA to old crime scenes, to getting DNA samples from close relatives or even suspects of folks who have committed heinous crimes. The famous, her name is C.C. Moore, and she tracked down, I'm not sure she was involved with that case in particular, but there was a case out in California of a fellow who was called the Golden State Killer.
Oh, right, yeah.
And during the late 70s, he went up and down the California coast and raped and murdered about, 15, 20, maybe even more women. And that case broke about 5 years ago, in which they tracked down DNA that was left at the scene to him, and now he is a resident of a California state prison
right.
Due to DNA.
So how does DNA play into what you do, though?
Okay, so when it comes to genealogy, there are quote called non-paternal events, in which folks can upload their DNA into a popular database like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, MyHeritage, a few others. And if your DNA, it will tell you based on on how much of a DNA match that you have, if you are related to people in the database. So in these cases where dad had a child out of wedlock or something and it was never talked about, there's been dozens and dozens of cases of folks who've been able to get in touch and network over these DNA databases so that they could find a lost father or lost relative in some way.
Or someone that you were separated from, a family member that you lost touch with. That must be a wonderful thing to be able to.
Folks finding their birth parents, adopted persons finding their birth father, their birth mother, who they may not have ever been contacted before. So in a sense, it's really helped reunite families with this
Sure.
new DNA technology out there.
So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do with what you do, and you also offer lectures and workshops that, and I would assume they're on specific subjects. And most people want to go see you because they have a specific question, right, or a quest that they're
Correct.
after. Is
Yeah.
that true?
Yeah, and that's the favorite part. I do lecture on a wide variety of subject matters. You can check out my website if you like. But my favorite part in doing it and going down to Plymouth on a regular basis is a lot of fun. Did it in person there recently. And the questions afterwards are the most fun. I mean, I deliver my speech, my talk on whatever it happens to be. But talking to folks about their ancestry and their questions is what I think is most meaningful to them,
Right.
and fun for me to answer too.
Sure. And be able to be that resource to them must be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have a fascinating job. Absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll put your information about how to get in touch with you and how to watch what you do. And fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, Julie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You can learn more about Brophy Professional Genealogy and Heir Research at brophygen.com. Mayflower passengers Priscilla Mullins and neighbor Peter Brown originally hailed from the market town of Dorking in Surrey, England, about 21 miles south of London. On April 29th at 12 p.m., join Alden House and historian Kathy Etherton for the online presentation A Taste of History at the Dorking Museum and Heritage Center. Co-author of the book, The Weaver, the Shoemaker, and the Mother of a Nation, the story of Dorking's Mayflower Pilgrims, Kathy will take you on an armchair tour of the fascinating collections in this museum. Register for the Zoom link via the Alden House Historic Site Facebook page. Earth Day 2022 falls on Saturday, April 23rd, and some residents of Pembroke want to celebrate by cleaning up the streets in their beautiful town. Join select person Tracy Marino and other Pembroke residents behind the community center anytime between 8:30 and 11 a.m. Make it a family fun day or bring a team of friends. High school students can record community service hours for their participation. Register for Pembroke Cleanup Day under Events via the Town of Pembroke's Facebook page. Once you've registered, you'll receive further instructions and information. Many Duxbury soldiers and sailors rallied to fight for independence during the American Revolution, leaving women behind to support the cause by caring for their families and working the fields and farms. The Mayflower Cemetery on Tremont Street is centuries old and the final resting place for many of these patriots. On Patriots Day, Monday, April 18th, join historian and archivist Carolyn Ravenscroft for a walking tour of this historic burial ground. Along the way, you'll stop at grave sites of some of Duxbury's notable residents who played a part in this tumultuous time in our history and the birth of the United States of America. Next up is Mark McKinley with an all-new Snapshot.
Welcome to Snapshot, where we take a local look at the government stories that you may have missed. The fight for women's rights began not that long ago, and legislators want to make sure that the work that has been done is not forgotten. A recent bill passed by state representatives is now before the Senate that, if passed, will direct Mass DOT and the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism to create an educational trail highlighting important sites and milestones of the women's rights movement called the Women's Rights History Trail. If signed into law, a task force will make the final decisions on sites to be included along this trail. Considered landmarks will be those that were important in the fight for women's rights or where a person who made a significant contribution to the effort lived or worked. The Massachusetts House of Representatives recently approved a $350 million bipartisan package of infrastructure and funding for cities and towns. Part of the package includes $150 million for municipal grants programs in addition to Chapter 90 funding. The legislation is now moving to the Senate for consideration. For more information on the municipal grant programs available from MassDOT, visit their page at mass.gov. The state recently announced travel and tourism recovery grants, and several organizations in our area were on the recipients list. The Plymouth Regional Economic Foundation and the Spire Center for Performing Arts received $100,000. See Plymouth received $90,000 to promote the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail, and Plymouth Pawtuxet Museum received $45,000. The grants from the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism help support the tourism industry and their marketing projects in our area and across the state. Summer is coming, which means it's time to think about the beach. Duxbury beach stickers for the new season are on sale now. You can buy them in person at the Town Hall, Treasurer's Department, or online at town.duxbury.ma.us. Permits for oversand vehicles are required year-round, and beach rangers on duty will be enforcing regulations requiring new permits on the beach for oversand vehicles. While on the town site, be sure to read the beach regulations so you know what the requirements are. The Kingston Town election is coming up on Saturday, April 23rd. There are contested races for the Kingston School Committee and the Silver Lake Regional School Committee, along with candidates running unopposed for other positions, including Board of Selectmen and Planning Board. To find out more information about who is on the ballot and about the election in general, visit kingstonma.gov and go to the town clerk's page. Thanks for watching this edition of Snapshot. I'm Mark McKinley, and we will see you next time.
Patty, Maxine, and Laverne Andrews grew up singing on the vaudeville circuit and rose to worldwide fame in the 1940s as the Andrews Sisters. With hits like Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree and Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, they sold well over 75 million records and profoundly influenced generations of performers. Beginning April 29 through May 7th, the Priscilla Beach Theater in Plymouth is presenting Sisters of Swing, the story of the Andrews Sisters. Written by Beth Gilliland and Bob Beveridge, with musical arrangements by Raymond Berg, the oldest barn theater still in operation in America is the perfect venue to harken back to a time when music, comedy, and swing helped keep spirits up and minds from thinking about the war. Each performance begins at 7:30 p.m. with one Sunday matinee taking place at 2. For show dates and tickets, visit the Priscilla Beach Theater website. The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry is a well-known line from poet Robert Burns, and we all know it's true. As you get closer to retirement, the curveballs life throws at you can feel harder to catch. On April 23rd at 2 p.m., join the Plymouth Public Library and guest presenter Barbara Meehan for Retirement Planning, Pivoting Through Life's Curveballs. Barbara will share her experience when her partner's Alzheimer's diagnosis completely changed her plans and idea of what retirement would look like. In this consumer health workshop, you'll discuss approaches that can help you regroup and pivot successfully when encountering unexpected life events. This free program is made possible by a health literacy grant from the South Shore Community Partners in Prevention. Visit the Plymouth Public Library website to register. During the pandemic, we noticed new beards, longer hair, and a lot of natural hair colors that hadn't been seen in years. Hair salon appointments were hard to come by, and for the salons themselves, the precautions necessary just to do business were daunting. We wanted to hear from people living that experience, so we visited with Sheree and Dana from 3 Broke Girls Salon here in North Plymouth. Here's a look back.
We have to use disposable aprons and capes, and we have to wear a mask and gloves and goggles, so it's a lot. And we have to set aside an extra half an hour each client to clean and make sure everything's disinfected for the next customer.
Julia was our customer for a long time at our last salon, and we mentioned the idea of opening a salon, and he actually explained that he builds salons and that he would help us to start this salon.
He had weekly dinners with us.
Weekly dinners.
We met with him every week, and we just paid for the food, that was it. He didn't want anything from us.
He did it all from the kindness of his heart.
Yeah, he found this place for us. He acted as if he was like our lawyer through it all.
We see Julia once a month. He comes in to visit us and checks on us also. So once COVID started, the numbers started rising, we was very nervous. So we actually closed the salon before most people closed their businesses. Because I have a son at home that has only one lung and it's compromised, so if I got it or she got it, I could potentially bring it home to my son. So, and we also have a lot of elderly customers that we're also fearful for. So we took it upon ourselves to close early, kind of before they said to, out of safety. Being shut down and closed for 4 months was very frightening, especially starting a new business and then trying to save the business so you can stay open. That's been very difficult.
People like emailing us and telling us that they have doctor's notes, they don't have to wear a mask. And we're like, well, you can't come here. We can't accept that.
That's been one of the challenges, definitely, is trying to explain, well, you know, we have compromised people at home, so you need to be in a mask when you come in, unless you can't come in. And sometimes you feel bad because customers have different views, definitely different views on things, and, you know, we just have to say sorry, but these are our protocols, and if we don't follow them, we will be shut down. So
also, I feel like if everyone just did what they're asked to do, then this would be over in a couple weeks. And even if there's a 1% chance this is real and you're a conspiracy theorist, just put the mask on.
yes.
You know, just do it for that.
For someone else, even if
you
it's
don't do
not
it for yourself.
You do it for other people around you that are compromised. It's just the right thing to do to save lives.
Yep. Three Broke Girls is kind of turning into a spa. We're actually, we've expanded and we have exciting things coming. We have a red light therapy bed coming, which it's a different light for each part of you and fixes, I don't know. Collagen,
It's a red light therapy
I don't know,
bed.
you
It's
do
amazing.
it.
And we're also going to add massage and facials. So we want to, you know, turn, instead of just a hair salon, turn it into a spa.
Right, so exciting things to come.
We are happy to report that Three Broke Girls has not only survived, they have grown. Thomas has joined the fold, making the official name of the business now Three Broke Girls and a Guy. Between the ages of 10 and 13, children become more independent and conflicts with parents can surge. While this is normal, it can blindside families who feel like they went from relative harmony to constant fighting. If you are tired of arguing with your teen, know that change is possible, and the Pembroke Public Library is here to help. On April 25th at 7 p.m., the library and parent coach Leanne Dixon will host virtual parent coaching for teen caregivers. In this online presentation, you will learn strategies that create more room for connection than arguing, mindful practices to help set the scene for peaceful communication, and the benefit of using visualization to help create the relationship you want. Leanne Dixon's mission is to help parents and teens save their relationships, enjoy easy conversations, and have more fun together. All parents and caregivers with teens and tweens are invited to attend and learn a new way forward. Visit the Pembroke Public Library website to register. And visit The Local Scene on YouTube, social media, or our website for more of what's good and good to know in our community. This wraps this episode of Local Matters. From all of us at PACTV, have a safe and happy week. We will see you next time. Thank you for watching. We are grateful for your attention. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe to The Local Scene here and share everywhere. Thank you, friends.